heads, working on the 9482 M11 Cummins with the STC injectors, step timing controls, what that stands for. I'm going to show you guys how to set what they call the overhead, which is the valves and the injectors on these motors. It's a fairly common procedure, you know, pretty standard, whether you're setting an old 855 or you're setting a N14, M11, L10, it's all pretty much the same. The specs are going to be different, and the injectors, type of injectors they have, that varies, but the order you do it in is all the same. Several things you can, they send this book along with the tractor. It's just an operation and maintenance manual for the M11, and it tells you everything you need to do in the book. And anyway, you go in here, and there's on this pulley here on the injection pump, there's markings on here. I don't know if you can see it says C right there, and then there's a mark right here on the valve cover, or the timing cover, that you roll it over. There's 3 marks on the pulley, and you got to roll it over twice to set all 6 cylinders. Right now I've set 3 of them. We're on C right now. You got to roll it over, kind of see where you're starting at. You can start on any of the markings. You don't have to start on a specific one. I started on A on the second revolution this time. So there's C, and so we're going to make, would be rotated 120 degrees on this pulley. There's A coming up right there. Takes an 1 5/16" socket on the nut here. There's lined up there. And you always rotate the engine. You stand at the back of the engine, everything's going counterclockwise. But obviously you're rolling the fan over, and it's pretty easy to figure out which way you need to turn it. So then you go over here, and we started on this A, and I set injector on cylinder number 4, valves on number 2, and then you'll go to B and whatnot, and it just goes down here on the list. You guys can see, and then I just got back up to A, which means I'm going to set, which I did the bottom half of the list first, so now I'm setting injector number 3 and valves on number 5. And once you get started, the valves you set an injector, and the next set of valves you set always follow the injector you just set. It's like before I rolled it, I set injector number 5. Now I'm going to set the valves on number 5. And it goes in the firing order. It's 1 5 3 6 2 4, pretty standard for a 6-cylinder engine on the firing order. So 1 5, and then the 5, 1 5 and 3 is what we're going to set the injector on now. So once you get going, it's pretty, you really don't even need to look at that book if you know the firing order. I had all this off. We had to replace this rocker box gasket here. It was leaking pretty bad, and so I had to replace that. And so I was able to leave the rocker arms bolted down, but I had to pull the injectors and everything off to get it all, you know, get this rocker box off. So I had that. I loosened all these nuts and got the push rods out of here so they could flip up, so I could get this box out of the way. But loosen that a little. There we go. And so I had those screws all backed out, and so they aren't exactly right where I need them. You know, pretty close. They aren't really in the area of where I need them. But anyway, 1 5. That's set number 3 here. The handy dandy tools, Cummins service tools here. Okay, now this little tool here, it's got a little U shape, got a little roll pin got sticking out here, and what this does, bring this down here in the injector, and in the top of the injector there's a little, they got holes drilled so you can get this tool around it, and it fits in there. I hope you guys can see this. I have no idea what you guys are seeing, but anyway, it gets in there and you can pull back on that tool just a little bit, and you just keep slight pressure on it with your thumb, and what that does, that pulls up on the plunger on the injector, and pulls up on that. And then when you take this little T-handled 6-inch pound torque wrench here, make sure that's backed off, there we go, take that thing and you go down, and it's going to tighten a little, and then when it gets to where it bottoms everything out, it just give it a couple gentle clicks. You don't turn it real fast or hard, just a couple little gentle ones there, and it goes over center. And then they want 0 lash in these. You don't want to compress the spring that's in the injector, but you want 0 lash. And take this, tighten the jam nut up, see if I can do it without dropping everything. Tighten the jam nut, and as long as that doesn't move. And if you don't use that other little tool for pulling up on the injector, the spring in the injector is not strong enough to where it will hold, where when that starts to tighten down, it'll compress the spring before it trips the 6-inch pounds, and you don't want that to happen. You want just 0 lash. And now that that's tightened up, you have 0 lash in the rocker arm, but you still want to be able to turn the push rod with your fingers. You know, 0 lash, but you know, and they're going to have some drag on the push rod, but you're going to be able to take your fingers and turn it. And if you can't do that with your fingers, you got it too tight. You need to back it off and set it again. Okay, this one's firing because it's up on top dead center compression, because we're going to set the valves here on number 5. And I set this injector last, and you can see you can't turn the push rod when it gets some pressure on it. So on the L10s, which was the series before this engine, was the predecessor to this particular model, they had they called just I think they were called top stop injectors. I think that's right. Anyway, and maybe the N14s had the same thing. I'm not sure. The late 855s, I can't remember. Kind of depended on the application and horsepower rating, but before they came out with these little tools to set the injectors, you would take a screwdriver and you just tighten that screw down, and you'd sit there and you just spin the push rod until, and you know, you just get, you know, until you had the right drag on the push rod, and that's what determined, you know, where you set it at, because they were a 0 tolerance. And they came out with this method, which is probably a little more accurate, because everybody, you know, feels different on how strong your fingers are and stuff, on how tight you set it. But anyway, then I always used a paint mark last time I set these when we first bought the tractor. So this time I'm going to use a Sharpie and just color the top of the bolt black to know that I've set that. One. Okay, and this particular engine is 14 thousandths on the exhaust, or on the intake, and 27 thousandths on the exhaust for the valves. Now you could do the method with the screwdriver and you just tighten it down until you get the right drag, and then tighten the jam nut. This is a pretty successful method. They're on every time so far on this engine. You just set the feeler gauge in there. You take this torque wrench and you just gently tighten it down again. Let it click a couple times. Leave the feeler gauge still there, and then you take the there we go. Snugged up. Now have just the perfect amount of drag on it, set at 14 thousandths. Still got some play. That's all tightened up. Take these, put 13 and the 14 together. They don't have a 20, which the exhaust is set. I don't have that over here at Dad's house. And the short ones are the intakes on this particular engine, and the long ones are the exhaust. Long rocker arms. It's a little easier to do. Come in like that. You always want to make sure you got the jam nut backed off far enough so that you're not tightening against the jam nut. With the feeler gauge still in there, you take that. If you leave the feeler gauge in there, that helps these not to turn. I think it kind of locks them in there to where when you tighten the jam nut, they don't turn. There we go. Some drag on it, not too much. That play, like that. And the number 3 injector. Got the push rod turns. Color those black, and then number 5 cylinder's done. So I got rotate it twice more. Got 2 more injectors to set and 2 more valves to set, and that's basically how you set the overhead on a STC M11 Cummins. And yeah, about all those bigger Cummins engines are all that same procedure for setting it. So yeah. But anyway, that's how you do it. And if I don't make a video before Christmas, everybody have a Merry Christmas here. Hope I offended a bunch of people right there saying Merry Christmas. Instead of Happy Holidays, we say Merry Christmas around here. And yeah, I just haven't had much going on to film, so I've been doing odds and ends stuff, but just haven't had much video material to film, so that's why I haven't had too many videos. But I got 1 or 2 things coming up, maybe before or after Christmas, I don't know, but we shall see. So thanks everybody for watching. One more thing I forgot to mention, in case anybody was wondering, we still got the double crop beans to cut. It is the 18th of December, I think, and weather has just not cooperated, so hopefully this next week they'll dry up and we'll be able to get those cut. But did get most of the chiseling done. Still got some of that to do left, but the fields that need to be done still are not real critical. If don't get chiseled, it's no big deal. And so for anybody who's wondering, there's that. Thanks for watching.